Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the Urban Herald. As part of the Herald team, our job really is to cut through all that information noise out there
Mm,
and bring you the clear, comprehensive analysis you need on the issues that, well, really matter today.
absolutely.
And today, we're tackling something. It's a profound, maybe even frustrating contradiction, sits right at the heart of our connected world.
Indeed. We're diving deep into what our team, the Herald, has been calling the security behavior divide. And the numbers, well, they're frighteningly clear, aren't they?
They really are.
We're facing just the most sophisticated wave of cyber attacks in history. We're talking attacks powered by AI, state-level resources.
It's serious stuff. Yet, and this is the crazy part, despite this massive escalating risk, 78% of people globally, they still reuse passwords. It's hard to believe.
It is.
The scale, the urgency of this, it's staggering. I mean, think about it. 16 billion passwords exposed in just the largest single breach of 2025.
16 billion.
And looking ahead, cybercrime damages. They're projected to hit a catastrophic $23 trillion by 2027. Just wow.
And what's fascinating here, or maybe terrifying, is that this huge economic instability, this massive threat, it's enabled mostly by human action, not really technical flaws in the code itself.
Right.
When our research shows 95% of cybersecurity incidents involve human error, well, this isn't just a tech challenge anymore, is it?
No, not at all.
It's fundamentally a design and behavioral crisis. That's what we're looking at.
So our goal for this deep dive today, and this comes straight from our recent Urban Herald report, it's to move beyond just, throwing scary statistics around. We really need to analyze the psychology, the societal factors behind this online security negligence. We've got to understand why. Why is the gap between knowing something is dangerous?
Knowing password reuse is bad.
Exactly. And actually doing something about it, why is that gap so incredibly wide?
And, if you listening right now feel overwhelmed by it all, the constant demand for new passwords, complex ones, for dozens of different services.
Which is pretty much everyone, right?
Exactly. You are absolutely not alone.
Word.
We're going to explore how our basic human cognition, how our brains work, is fundamentally mismatched with what modern security asks of us.
Yeah.
And we'll really examine those deep psychological barriers that make these poor security choices almost inevitable. Without the right tools, the right system changes.
Okay, so let's start by really defining the scale of this crisis. What our report calls the alarming anatomy of digital recklessness. The global picture, as we said, 78% admit reusing passwords.
And the cost when that goes wrong, it's brutal for companies. The average data breach now costs £3.8 million per incident.
Per incident. Wow.
And that 78% figure, it might even be conservative in some places.
Yeah.
Our team found that globally, the admission rate for reuse climbs closer to 84%.
84%.
Yeah, well, in the U.S. specifically, it's maybe around 60%. But honestly, the true risk, the actual number of reused passwords out there, is likely much higher than what people admit to, even anonymously.
That makes sense. And here's where the data got really interesting for us, diving into the generational paradox. You'd think digital natives, right? Gen Z grew up online.
You'd assume they'd be the most savvy.
Totally. Most security conscious. They've seen breach after breach in the news. Yet, our research shows 72% of Gen Z reuse passwords. 72%.
And get this, that's despite 79% of them telling us explicitly they believe password reuse is risky.
So they know it's bad.
It's bad.
Yeah.
This just completely blows up the idea that being a digital native automatically means you have good security habits.
Yeah, it's not translated.
The contradiction is just profound. If knowing the risks was enough, Gen Z would be the safest group online. But the data shows they're not by a long shot.
They aren't changing their behavior even when they know. We found 35% of Gen Z rarely or never update passwords even after a big breach is announced publicly.
Right. Even when they know that specific service was hit.
Exactly. And when they do update, nearly 40%, 38% to be precise, just make a tiny change. Swap a number, add a symbol. Basically recycling the password that was just compromised.
It's like changing the lock but using the same key pattern. Doesn't really help, does it?
Not much, no. And looking specifically at the UK data, we found some really stark examples of this. Over 6 million people.
6 million.
That's what, 12.45% of the population?
Oh.
Use a single password for everything. Bank accounts, emails, social media, everything.
One password for their entire digital life. That's risky.
Hugely. And overall in the UK, 80% reuse passwords in some way. And over a third, 36.23%, manage their whole online presence with just 1 to 3 passwords total. It's like building a fortress with tissue paper walls.
Yeah, a massive attack surface built purely on convenience.
So to make these numbers feel more real, let's look at a couple of case studies from the report. They really show the devastating ripple effect of this reuse habit. First, there's Marcus.
Ah, yes, Marcus's story.
He was 28, a marketing professional, ironically someone who actually wrote about digital innovation for a living.
Right.
He lost 12,000 pounds from his cryptocurrency wallet back in October 2025.
And the crucial part here is how they got in. The attackers didn't hack his crypto wallet directly, did they?
No, that's the key.
Yeah.
The theft was traced back to a login details, credentials, stolen from a completely unrelated fitness app breach 2 years earlier.
2 years. So that data was floating around for a long time.
Exactly. And Marcus had used that exact email and password combination, the one stolen from the fitness app, across, wait for it, 47 different services.
47. Wow.
Including the platform connected to his crypto. That's classic credential stuffing, isn't it?
Textbook case. Hackers get a list of stolen logins, maybe buy it on the dark web, and then just automatically try or stuff those combinations into thousands of other websites. They're just betting on people reusing passwords.
And it pays off for them, clearly. Marcus even admitted, the irony wasn't lost on him. He said he knew better, but just couldn't be bothered managing 47 unique logins.
The immediate convenience won out over the abstract risk until it wasn't abstract anymore.
Exactly. And this habit, it doesn't just stay personal, does it? It can quickly jump into the realm of public safety, like the September 2025 healthcare data breach.
Oh, that was a huge one. 14 million patient records exposed.
And how did it happen? Traced back to one single person, Sarah, an administrative assistant.
And what was her mistake?
Password reuse. She used the same password across 3 critical places. Her work email, the actual patient database she managed.
Okay, that's bad enough.
And her personal Netflix account.
Netflix. So a breach of a streaming service, probably a low-security, easy target.
Right. Became an instant national security issue involving millions of people's sensitive medical data.
And Sarah's reasoning. She told investigators she understood the risk, in theory, but the sheer number of passwords she needed just made it, quote, impossible to remember different passwords for everything.
That right there, that's security fatigue in action, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's not people being malicious or truly ignorant. It's the system placing this overwhelming cognitive burden on them. It forces them into these coping strategies, like reuse, that actually make them less secure.
And when you hear that young adults now manage, on average, 118 online accounts.
118.
That constant mental juggling act, it just leads to worse practices. People essentially give up trying to do it perfectly.
Which leads us right into our next section, the core psychological barriers. Why does this happen? It really comes down to our basic human cognitive limitations.
Yeah, our brains are amazing, but they're built for efficiency, right?
Yeah.
Pattern recognition, simplifying things, not for memorizing hundreds of random complex strings of characters.
Exactly. The core conflict is just capacity. Research consistently shows the average person can only comfortably hold about 7 to 10 distinct pieces of information in short-term memory before things get, fuzzy.
7 to 10 things. And security systems demand what? Complex mixes of letters, numbers, symbols, minimum lengths for dozens, maybe hundreds of accounts.
We hit our cognitive load limit almost immediately. It's like trying to carry too many groceries at once. You're bound to drop something.
Which forces that security convenience trade-off we mentioned. When the security rules feel too hard, our brains just struggle to justify the effort, so we default. We pick something memorable, even if we know it's not that secure.
The juggling analogy you used earlier is perfect.
Yeah.
Juggling 3 balls, manageable, maybe even 7.
Yeah, okay.
But demanding 10 different complex juggling patterns, uppercase, lowercase, number, symbol, minimum length, for 100 different performances.
Yeah.
It feels impossible without dropping everything.
So our brain just picks the easiest pattern and sticks with it.
Exactly. It chooses the path of least resistance. With over 100 accounts average, we've created an impossible task for the unaided human brain. So people revert to insecure patterns.
Yeah.
It's not a character flaw. It's a predictable psychological response to bad system design.
And it's not just about memory limits. There are these cognitive biases that really kick in and reinforce the bad behavior, like social proof bias.
Ah, yes. This one's subtle but powerful.
It really is. If you're, say, in an office environment and you hear colleagues joking about sharing their Netflix password, or maybe friends admit using their pet's name and birthday for everything.
It starts to feel normal, doesn't it? It normalizes the risky behavior.
Exactly. It creates this false sense of security. The internal logic becomes, well, if everyone else is doing it and they haven't been hacked yet, it must be okay for me too.
Yeah, that peer observation, it validates the dangerous habit. Even if, intellectually, it's probably not a great idea.
Which ties into the next big one, optimism bias. The classic, it won't happen to me feeling.
We see this everywhere. People readily acknowledge, yeah, data breaches happen all the time. They see the headlines.
Sure.
But they consistently underestimate their own personal risk. They think, my accounts aren't that important, or my reused password isn't that obvious.
And the data really bears this out. Only about 19% of users globally use unique passwords for every single account.
Only 19%, which means the vast majority, over 80%, are operating under this, frankly, false assumption that their current habits, maybe using just a few passwords, are good enough.
And here's the tricky part. That false sense of security gets stronger every single day. Nothing bad happens.
Precisely. Every time you log in successfully with that reused password, every transaction that goes through smoothly, it acts like a little micro-reinforcement.
See, it worked fine.
Exactly. It strengthens the dangerous belief that this password is okay. The threat feels abstract, far away, until suddenly it isn't, until that big statistic becomes your personal crisis.
Which brings us to maybe the most critical finding in our research, the knowledge action gap. This is the absolute core of the problem we're discussing.
It really defines it. We know, for instance, 86% of employees say they can spot a phishing email.
86%, that sounds pretty good.
Right. But then nearly 50% admit they've actually fallen for a phishing scam at some point.
Ah. So saying and doing are very different things.
Hugely different. And we saw the same with Gen Z. 79% know password use is risky, but 72% do it anyway.
So just telling people, be more careful or learn the risks, it's clearly not enough, is it?
No. Education alone is insufficient. We can't lecture our way out of this. The solution has to bridge that gap between the theory, what we know we should do, and the practical reality, making the secure path the easy path.
And this whole problem gets worse when people try to solve the password overload problem themselves, but they reach for tools that seem helpful but are actually pretty insecure.
You're talking about built-in browser password managers, right?
Yes.
Chrome, Safari, Firefox.
Exactly. Our data shows about 34% of Americans store passwords right there in the browser. And you can see why it's super convenient.
Oh, it's the ultimate convenience. The browser remembers everything, fills it in with one click, syncs across your devices. It feels secure and seamless.
It gives you that veneer of security without any real effort.
But, and this is a big but, security researchers consistently warn about these. They generally lack what's called zero-knowledge architecture, and they don't have the same robust encryption as dedicated password manager apps.
Okay, what does zero knowledge mean in simple terms?
It means the company providing this service, the password manager company itself, cannot access your master password or your stored passwords. They can't see them, they can't decrypt them. Even if their servers get hacked, your vault remains secure because only you have the key.
Ah, okay. So the browser managers might not have that level of protection.
Often, no. They're designed primarily for convenience. Security is secondary. Your passwords might be stored in a way that's easier to get at on the device itself, maybe only protected by your main computer login.
Which makes them a target for malware then.
Absolutely. We've tracked specific malware strains, like the notorious Redline stealer. Its whole purpose is to target browser caches and grab stored credentials. It bypasses the basic protections easily.
And once it grabs them.
Those logins are bundled up and sold almost instantly on dark web marketplaces,
Yeah.
fueling those credential stuffing attacks we talked about earlier.
And it's not just malware, right? There's the simple risk of someone getting physical access to your device.
Exactly. Low tech, but effective. If your browser manager stays logged in, which they often do, someone stealing your laptop could potentially just open the browser settings and view your saved passwords in plain text.
Protected only by maybe your computer's sleep password, which might be weak or easy to guess.
Precisely. It's a significant physical security risk, too.
And we saw how devastating this can be in a corporate setting. That October 2025 case with the London fintech startup.
Oh, yeah. That was a stark reminder. An employee's laptop got stolen from a coffee shop. just stepped away for a minute.
That's all it took. And within hours, hackers were inside the company's systems.
Because
Because all the critical corporate passwords for their AWS cloud infrastructure, client databases, financial systems were stored right there in the Chrome browser manager on that stolen laptop.
unbelievable negligence, really.
And it cost them £2.3 million instantly. Emergency security fixes, lost contracts, a disaster.
And this points right back to what we found about institutional negligence.
Yeah.
It's not just individuals. When 68% of companies tell us they have no cybersecurity awareness training at all,
68%.
that massive gap at the organizational level just makes individual carelessness almost inevitable, doesn't it?
It really does. And it creates this huge enterprise challenge, too. If employees are using browser managers for work stuff, IT has no idea. They lose all visibility.
Right. How do you manage risk? How do you handle someone leaving the company if their corporate access is tied to their personal browser login?
You can't force password changes easily. You don't know what systems might be compromised via that person's potentially insecure home setup. It's basically an unacceptable risk for any serious business.
And that risk spills over into the home environment, too. Think about shared devices, family members borrowing laptops, partners using the same tablet.
Yeah, if I rely on my browser manager and my kid borrows my laptop to do homework, suddenly all my accounts are potentially exposed if that browser doesn't have extra layers of authentication.
It creates these cascading vulnerabilities. One person's convenience becomes a risk for everyone sharing the device or network.
Okay, so let's pivot now and compare this stagnant human behavior with the threats themselves, which are doing anything but stagnating. They're accelerating like crazy.
That's the really alarming contrast. The threat landscape is evolving exponentially faster than our defenses, especially our human defenses.
We mentioned it earlier, but that June 2025 breach, 16 billion passwords exposed from huge services: Facebook, Google, Apple, GitHub, Telegram.
Basically everyone. The sheer volume means almost every single person online has likely had at least one set of their credentials compromised and floating around out there.
And the attackers aren't just using brute force anymore. They're using cutting-edge tech. AI is powering so much of this now.
Oh, absolutely. Our research highlighted a frightening surge in AI-powered exploitation, those AI phishing attacks, up 180% in 2025.
And they're good, aren't they? Super personalized, very convincing. Not like the old typo-filled scam emails.
Not at all. AI can generate millions of unique, tailored emails targeting specific people or roles within a company, making them incredibly hard to spot.
And then there are the deepfakes. That statistic was chilling. 47% of organizations experience deepfake attacks.
Yeah, using AI-generated video or audio to convincingly impersonate a CEO demanding a wire transfer, or maybe a colleague asking for sensitive data. It bypasses our natural trust cues.
And synthetic identity fraud, using AI to create completely fake digital people, now accounts for over 80% of new account fraud. It's like fighting ghosts.
We're battling sophisticated intelligence now, not just simple scripts.
And looking back at 2025 specifically, some critical incidents really underscore this urgency: that European telecom breach in August.
Right, that wasn't just data theft. It exposed real-time location tracking for 23 million subscribers. Think about the implications of that. Personal safety, corporate spying.
Terrifying. Then in September, those coordinated attacks on water systems in 5 countries. Critical infrastructure.
And how did they get in? Predictably. Reused administrative passwords. A simple human error threatens potentially millions with contaminated water or service disruption.
Turns a password mistake into a public safety nightmare.
Instantly.
Yeah.
And then October brought that truly watershed moment. The first successful AI-generated deepfake voice attack against a bank's security.
They faked an executive's voice.
Perfectly. Used AI to mimic it exactly, bypassing voice authentication security, leading to over £7 million in fraudulent transfers.
Wow. So the gap is widening. Attack capabilities are leaping forward while our defensive behaviors are pretty much stuck.
That's the core problem. And despite all this tech, despite billions spent on firewalls and fancy detection systems, that 95% figure keeps coming up. 95% of breaches still involve human error.
And you said that percentage is actually increasing.
It appears to be, yes, which is astounding. It shows that technical defenses alone just aren't enough. One reused password, one click on a convincing phishing link, one successful deepfake call. It can render millions in security tech completely useless.
And that's amplified by the institutional negligence we talked about. 74% of companies with no ongoing training, 68% thinking none is even needed.
That mindset actively undermines everything. It creates a culture where carelessness is almost excused, or at least not actively fought against.
And the attackers know how to exploit our psychology directly, don't they? Leveraging authority, urgency.
Absolutely. Those business email compromise attacks have doubled precisely because they play on those things. They use spoofed email addresses, maybe slightly altered, claiming to be the CEO or CFO.
Demanding immediate action, urgent payment needed for secret deal.
Exactly. They create intense pressure bypassing our normal rational checks. We're wired to respond to authority and urgency, and they weaponize that.
Like that UK university's payroll scam in November 2025. That was a perfect example.
It really was. Finance staff at 3 different universities got emails supposedly from senior administrators. Looked official, used the right letterhead.
Demanding immediate wire transfers, nearly £900,000 in total for some confidential acquisition opportunity.
And because it seemed to come from the boss, and it was marked urgent and confidential, the normal verification steps were skipped. Boom, money gone.
It shows how social engineering can just walk right past the technical defenses by targeting the human.
Which makes you think, okay, given all this, the solution seems obvious, right? Dedicated password managers.
Yeah, they solve the core problem. They generate unique, complex passwords, store them securely, fill them in automatically. They take that cognitive load off the user.
But here's the paradox. The solution paradox, as we call it. Despite being an established, effective solution, the uptake is just painfully slow.
The usage rates are really low, aren't they? Only 36% of U.S. adults use a dedicated password manager, and that only went up 2% from the previous year.
2% growth, despite the threat level soaring. Yeah. And globally, even worse, just 15%. 15%.
So the tech is there, it works, it fixes the human weak link, but people just aren't adopting it in large numbers.
And even when they do use a password manager, which ones do they often pick?
The built-in ones, right? Because they're easy. Google Password Manager has like 32% market share. Apple's iCloud Keychain has 23%. They dominate.
They do. And while they're definitely better than nothing or using sticky notes,
sure,
they often lack that crucial zero-knowledge architecture we talked about earlier. Their primary goal is seamless integration within their ecosystem, not necessarily best-in-class, standalone security.
So convenience wins again, even in choosing the security tool itself.
It often does. Plus, there's a clear economic factor. Our research found that free versions of password managers get adopted 8 times more often than paid premium versions.
8 times? That's huge.
It's a massive signal. It tells us people are willing to use these tools, but that cost, even a small monthly fee, is a significant barrier for many.
So making robust, zero-knowledge managers free or heavily subsidized could dramatically boost adoption.
The data strongly suggests it would, yes. Removing that financial friction could be a game changer for population-level security.
Now compare that slow consumer uptake with what's happening in the business world.
Ah, yes. A completely different picture there.
Yeah.
Enterprise adoption is growing much faster. B2B business-to-business sales are up 34% annually. Compare that to the sluggish 12% growth on the consumer side.
And why the difference? Is it just companies being smarter?
Not necessarily smarter, but they operate under different pressures. It's the forcing function at work.
The forcing function, explain that.
In companies, especially larger ones, using specific security tools like password managers is often mandatory. It's not a choice the employee makes.
Ah, IT rolls it out, supports it, integrates it into the workflow.
It's exactly. The decision is driven by the organization's need to manage risk, meet regulatory requirements like GDPR or financial compliance, maybe satisfy cyber insurance policies. The individual adoption barrier, having to research, choose, install, migrate passwords, is completely removed.
Whereas for us as consumers, it's all voluntary.
Purely voluntary.
Oh.
You have to decide to do it. You have to research which one is best. You have to set it up. You have to manually move all your existing passwords over.
Ugh. Yeah, that sounds like work.
It is work up front. And each one of those steps is a point where someone might just give up and stick with what they're doing now, even if it's risky. The effort is immediate, but the benefit of avoiding a future uncertain breach feels distant.
And this just feeds back into that browser dependency problem. If setting up a real password manager feels like too much hassle, people fall back on memory.
Which fails. Or they fall back on the browser saving passwords, which we know is convenient but less secure.
And relying on the browser creates other issues too, like getting locked into one ecosystem, right? Makes it harder to switch browsers or use different devices seamlessly if your passwords don't easily come with you.
Precisely. It encourages simplification, meaning reuse, just to make life manageable across platforms.
Are there any external pressures pushing consumers, though, like we see with businesses?
It's starting slowly.
Yeah.
Regulation is one driver. Think about cyber insurance. Insurers are getting tougher.
How so?
They're increasingly demanding that businesses have strong password policies and use MFA multi-factor authentication pretty much everywhere important just to get coverage.
Okay, MFA, that's like the code sent to your phone, right?
Yeah.
A second step beyond just the password.
Exactly. Requiring that second factor makes stolen passwords much less useful to attackers. So insurers are creating direct financial incentives for companies to adopt these better practices. They won't insure the risk otherwise. We haven't seen that level of pressure hit consumers directly yet, but it shows how mandates can drive change.
Okay, so taking all this in, the core conclusion from our Urban Herald report seems pretty clear. This isn't really a user stupidity problem.
Not at all. It's fundamentally a design problem. We have to stop blaming people for acting like people, for having cognitive limits, for seeking convenience.
And instead,
We need to start designing systems, websites, apps, security protocols that work with human nature, that embrace our psychology instead of constantly fighting against it.
and the good news is the technology to do that is emerging, isn't it?
Ah.
Especially technologies that move us beyond traditional passwords altogether.
The promise there is huge. We're talking about standards like FIDO2 and WebAuthn, and especially the implementation known as passkeys.
Okay, passkeys. We hear that term more and more. Break it down simply for listeners who might know the basics but want the core idea.
Okay, think of it like this. Instead of creating a password that's stored on the website server, where it can be stolen, you create a unique cryptographic key pair. One part, the private key, stays securely locked on your device, your phone, your laptop.
Okay, locked on my device.
The other part, the public key, is registered with the website. When you log in, the website asks your device to prove it has the matching private key. Your device does this using biometrics, fingerprint, face scan, or maybe your device PIN.
So the website never sees or stores my actual secret.
Never. It only verifies the cryptographic proof sent by your device. And because the private key never leaves your device, and you need your biometric or PIN to use it, it's essentially unphishable.
Unphishable, meaning even if I click a fake login link.
The attacker can't get your passkey. They don't have your device. They don't have your fingerprint. It stops credential theft and phishing related to passwords dead in its tracks.
That sounds incredibly powerful and much easier for the user, presumably. No more remembering complex strings.
That's the goal. The user experience, UX, is absolutely critical. For passkeys or any solution to work, it has to be seamless. Easy setup, automatic sign-in, smooth syncing across your devices.
If security becomes easier than insecurity,
People will choose security. That has to be the guiding principle for designers. Make the secure path the path of least resistance.
and beyond the tech itself, there are other ways to nudge behavior, drawing from behavioral economics.
Definitely. Instead of those boring, ineffective annual security training sessions that nobody pays attention to.
We've all sat through those.
Right. We need systemic changes. A big one is default settings.
Make the secure option the default.
Exactly. Imagine if operating systems or browsers came with a secure, zero-knowledge password manager enabled by default. Most people stick with defaults. It removes the friction, overcomes inertia.
That makes a lot of sense. And for training, if we still need it.
It needs a total rethink. Forget the long lectures. Think micro-learning. Short, frequent, engaging modules. And gamification. Use points, badges, leaderboards.
Like those phishing simulations where you get points for spotting the fake email.
Precisely. They provide immediate feedback, they're interactive, maybe even a little competitive. Way more effective at building real skills than a passive PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, so that's individual and tool-based changes. What about bigger systemic shifts?
Platforms themselves need to take more responsibility. One idea is graduated friction.
Meaning
Security shouldn't be one size fits all for every action. Logging in to read the news. Minimal authentication needed. But trying to transfer 10,000 pounds or change your account recovery email? That's high risk.
So the system should automatically demand more proof. Stronger authentication, maybe MFA.
Exactly. Increase the security friction based on the sensitivity of the action. Make it harder to do risky things without extra verification.
Which ties into the idea of systemic mandates, right? Not just relying on users or individual companies.
Yes. We need infrastructure level changes. Things like mandating MFA for all financial transactions over a certain amount. Requiring software vendors to ship products with secure settings turned on by default, not off.
Shifting the burden from the end user back onto the designers and regulators?
That's the key. Make security an inherent part of the system, not an optional add-on that individuals have to figure out.
And finally, this idea of collective defense. How does that work?
It's about leveraging shared knowledge. When a major breach happens at, say, Service A, other platforms, Service B, C, and D, should be able to use threat intelligence feeds to see if any of their users were using the same compromised password.
Ah, so they can proactively warn those users.
Even better, proactively prompt them or even force a password reset before the attackers have a chance to try that stolen password on their site. The security community often knows about breaches before the average user does. We need systems that act on that intelligence immediately.
Okay, so pulling this all together, what does this all mean? We've laid out how this projected $23 trillion cybercrime cost is largely enabled by, well, us, by human behavior.
That huge gap between knowing the risks and actually changing our actions.
Driven by cognitive load, influenced by seeing what others do, and ultimately rooted in our brain's preference for what's easy right now versus protecting against some future abstract threat.
But the core message from our research, from this deep dive, is that we have to stop just lamenting human nature. We have to stop blaming the user.
And instead,
Start designing security that embraces our psychological reality. The solutions are here, or they're very close. Passkeys are rolling out. Default secure settings are possible. Frictionless, zero-knowledge password managers exist and work well.
so the real battle isn't inventing more complex tech.
No. It's designing systems, finally, that make being secure the easiest, most natural option. It's about making security the path of least resistance.
The technology is basically waiting. The big question now is whether we have the collective, systemic will to actually implement these changes widely.
That really is the challenge. We have the tools, we understand the psychology. Now we need the platforms, the regulators, the industry as a whole to make security easy and automatic, not just another burden for the user to carry.
Which leaves us with a final thought, a provocation perhaps, for you listening.
As we move towards this future of passkeys, where security is tied more closely to your physical devices, think about recovery. If you lose your phone or your laptop dies, how do you get back into your accounts? What's the ultimate fallback?
It often comes down to that master recovery phrase or some kind of recovery key, doesn't it?
Exactly. That one critical piece of information,
Yeah.
probably long, complex, impossible to guess. You must never store it digitally anywhere attackers could find it.
But you absolutely must remember it or have it stored securely offline perfectly for when you need it.
Right. So even in a passwordless future, the human factor doesn't vanish entirely. That ability to safeguard and recall that ultimate master key, it still rests on you. It remains that final, crucial, single point of failure for system recovery.
A sobering reminder that even with better design, some responsibility always remains.
It does. Something to think about.